We're going to start right away because we're going to need every second. Yeah. But you will have the chance to do whatever you need because some of the time is your own. Hi, I'm Day2Larsen, and we're going to get started right on time because you're going to need all the time. We're going to be talking today about how am I doing? How are you doing with your own professional development? How are you doing at staying current in your field? How are you doing at learning the things that you want to learn and learning them in the best possible way? All that kind of stuff. And when I've done this presentation before, we've actually worked through all that for everybody in the room. Unfortunately, with the time pressures here, I have to end at noon, right? Because people are going to want lunch. Yeah. So with the time pressures here, we won't be able to take as much time with each step as I normally would like. But what we will do is go through every step, give you a chance to do a little of it so that you can finish up later on. Okay? So you could try out all the techniques that I'm going to talk about, and then you can try them on your own. So that's how we're going to do this. The best way to make this work is to get in groups of 3. So find a couple of other people that you're feeling compatible with. This is not one of those things where you have to go find somebody you don't know, because that's not what you want here. Here you want somebody who maybe knows you a little or is familiar with your field or something like that. And rearrange the chairs. Arrange the chairs so that you can work together in a way that's comfortable for you. These kind of rows of chairs things, I just, you know. And if we have to have a group of 4 or a pair, that's fine. But try to get in groups of 3. Great.
All of you adjusting to me. This is exactly how it should be.
Okay. You may find that you'll need to adjust your seats because as you start having conversations in these triads, you're going to experience a little bit of noise pollution. So as we go on, if you feel like you need to move around so that you can do the work, feel free. I'm all for making it so you can do the work, right? So, okay, does everybody have access to one of these? Either have your own or have one nearby? Okay, because we're going to use some of the sticky notes and stuff out of here. So as long as somebody's got one, we're in good shape. Until they said, "Oh, you want one of these?" And I'm like, "Until they show me the sticky notes." The sticky notes. I don't, and I don't think they do out by the desk. But if you can use just paper too. It's, yeah. Just the sticky notes are kind of handy, and they don't drop out. Okay, so we've got everything arranged. We're ready to go. Everybody's here. You've all figured out this isn't going to be like any of the other sessions you've attended here. So, a little bit about me. I work for a company called FutureWorks Consulting. We've been around since 2000, and actually the person that that is my partner in this, I've actually been working with her since 1993. So we've been working together for quite a long time. We have a vision at FutureWorks Consulting, and that is we see a world where everyone at every level of the organization can say, I love my work. This is the best job ever. And that actually is what drew me into working in the Agile arena, because I saw the potential for that there. Doesn't always reach that potential as we do it right now, But I have seen this in enough organizations that I know it's possible, and that's the focus of my work. I am involved in the Agile community, but just as a means for getting there. Right? I'm the author of 3 books at this point, Agile Retrospectives, another book called Liftoff, which is about the front end of projects, Virtuosity, which I'm doing an experiment with my co-author and I, writing it through LeanPub, which is really interesting. If you don't know about LeanPub, I recommend you check it out. And we recently published an article with Jim Shore that's actually on Martin Fowler's website called Agile Fluency. You can get to it through agilefluency.com. It's called Your Team's Path to Agile Fluency, which is about the idea that there are actually a number of ways to get there. And on a volunteer basis, I'm pretty involved in the Agile Alliance. I am so involved in the Agile Alliance that I am now term limited and can't be on the board anymore. So this is my last year on the Agile Alliance board. I'm also involved with a nonprofit organization called Language Hunters, which is about saving endangered languages and learning how to become a polyglot in the easiest possible way. And I'm also very involved in Agile Open Northwest, which I was going to do a pitch for because it's happening next week in Portland, but as it turns out, we're sold out, so tough luck. Okay, so that's me. In this session, we're going to talk about personal retrospectives for developing your craft. So personal means it's going to focus on you and your learning. And initially we're going to drill into that and really appreciate how you've come this far, what you've done recently. It's going to be a retrospective. So we're going to look back, see what kind of tuning up we can do in order to plan to move forward. How are you going to adapt the way you have been handling your professional development up until now? And we're really going to focus on craft. What skills do you want to learn? What skills have you been working on? What's up next in your queue? How do you decide when there's a bajillion things we could all be learning? Where do we focus? How do we make that choice about focusing? And then what do we do as the first step? So those are the 3 pieces that we're going to be working on in the next 50 minutes or so. So we're going to get started, which is what we're doing now. We're going to take a chance to look back and appreciate. We're going to make sense of that, then look forward and choose the next step, and then we'll have a little bit of wrap up at the end. First, I want to lay a ground rule. In Norm Kurth's book, he has something he calls the retrospective prime directive. And I've adapted that a little bit for use here. So for each of you, and this is often the very hardest. People have much easier time applying the prime directive to other folks than they do to themselves, right? So regardless of what you discover about your past actions around developing your skills, you understand that you did the best you could. This is not an opportunity to beat yourself up or beat other people up, or, oh my gosh, I could have done more. No, what we know is people always show up and do their best, including you, but sometimes things get in the way. Sometimes we don't have all the information we need. Sometimes our current skills and abilities, the base that we're working from, aren't really adequate to get us to the next thing we want to do. Sometimes we don't have the resources we need. Sometimes we're sick. Sometimes other stuff is going on, distractions. I've been struggling with this myself lately because I feel like I've been kind of coming close to dropping the ball on a few things because I'm right in the middle of selling a house and buying another house and all the stuff that goes with that, and it's enormously distracting. So I'm not able to do what I think is my independent standard of best, but every day I'm doing the best I can that day. So I want you to be able to say this about yourself. You're doing the best you can today. given all of this, and you have been doing that over the past year, which is what we're going to be looking at. So is there anybody here who cannot subscribe to this for yourself? Okay, good. All right, so I didn't see any hands go up, so I'm assuming we're all going to be here. So let's appreciate this past year. What have you done? And also I would say here, there's always the opportunity to think about the people who've helped you and really give them some appreciation for that help. There's a nice form for that. You say their name. You say, Jim, I appreciate you for inviting me to this conference. I got to learn a lot this morning's keynote, and it's really been valuable to me. Thanks. Right? Simple. Name a person directly to them. Right? So think about doing that. But right now, we're going to appreciate you. We're going to appreciate the things you've done toward working toward your own craftsmanship over the past year. So, on a piece of paper, make a line. One end of the continuum is January last year. The other end of the continuum is January this year, is right now, where we stand. And on the left end, I'm a little right and left challenged, so I have to do that. On the left end, at the top, above the line, write high points. And below the line, write low points. Then think about the last year in reference to your professional development, how you were developing your craft. What did you do? What kind of on-the-job things were you doing? What kinds of events were you attending? Were you getting mentorship from someone? Did you ask certain questions? It can be anything. Anything that helped you learn, or that you hoped would help you learn, and maybe didn't quite meet the grade, over the past year. Okay, and just make yourself a little graph. Well, in January, I was doing this, and then I had this happen, and then, right? Think yourself through the year, and if you need to put tick marks for months, make it useful to you. And just make a little graph. Where were the high and low points of your year in terms of your own professional development? I'll give you about 2 minutes to work on that. As you go along, you might annotate it. This is the thing I was trying to learn here. This is what I was, this is the event I attended, whatever it might be. Do we have any pairs that need a third member? Somebody willing to form a group of 4 with, yeah. another half a minute. No, much nicer than that. Okay. So you may not have completed this. Again, I encourage you to think about it in more depth. I mean, 2 minutes isn't very long to spend on establishing a baseline for learning. But however far you got, we're going to move on. So the next piece is to take a look at that. Say, what was going on up here? What was going on down in the low points? What was that? And look for what kinds of patterns were there. What do you see? Really dig into it. Do some analysis of it. So what were the high points? What actually were those? Do they have anything in common? What were the low points? Is there anything in common there? Any surprises? Something you didn't expect to see? Where did you feel challenged? What was hardest? Where were you really having to put a lot of effort in? What was really energizing and exhilarating? Right? When did you see patterns across all of it, in general? In general, but maybe a couple of exceptions. What was the nature of those exceptions? I saw this, but on the other hand, I also saw that, right? Those questions actually come from this Human Systems Dynamics Institute as actually pattern recognition questions in human systems. It's a combination here. Those are really good questions to ask in a lot of different situations. What aspect of your craft did you develop the most? Where did you give the least attention? What is about what you would have expected? What doesn't seem to make sense yet? Right? So in your small groups, have a conversation about the patterns you see on your timeline. And we'll just take a couple of minutes on that, so give each person a chance. We'll do 3 minutes, so each person will get a minute to talk about theirs. Okay? Just what did you see in your timeline? And initially, this is going to feel awkward and weird, as does any new thing you try. But doing it makes it easier. Make sure everyone gets a chance. Join a group and ask them to catch you up. About half a minute. Again, I know that you don't get very far with these very short time blocks, but just enough to have the experience. And I will say that when you go away from here, you won't be in these same groups of 3. Particularly in this part, it's useful to have someone else to talk to, even if it's just one other person. Because sometimes other people will see patterns that you don't see. And so to be able to share that and ask somebody else. And oftentimes, the best people are people to ask someone who's very familiar with your work, someone who's totally clueless about what you do. We'll see different patterns. So now you have a sense of where you've been, what happened, and what the patterns were. So now let's try to make sense of it. Think about one of the things that you were focused on in terms of your own learning. Or think about the thing that you would like to focus on, you think, a target possibility in the next year. Either way. Right? Write that down in the middle of a page. Whatever that skill is, whatever that learning focus is,